publisher of the San Diego Voice and Viewpoint newspaper, coming to you with our program from the desk of the editor. Joined in studio with Dr. Leonard Thompson, who is so gracious to have worked with us on this project. I'd like to remind you that the Voice and Viewpoint is San Diego's oldest and only African American publication. We're now headed into our 66th year. We're in 89 zip codes, 17 cities, unincorporated areas, available digitally on the internet, available in churches, available senior centers, available in 7-Elevens and over-the-counter. And so we believe very strongly, as our slogan says, that a people without a voice cannot be heard. And so tonight, we want to give you an opportunity to hear your voice. We're doing an open mic approach again. If you want to call in, it's 858.
251-6111.
And if you want to come on through the internet,
Facebook and YouTube.
Okay, we're right there, godradio1.com. And we know you, if you are experiencing the government shutdown, if you're experiencing what we saw yesterday with the insanity of the would-be secretary and the president and the manner in which they tortured the brass, you ought to have something to say because you're being impacted by all this stuff. And you can be quiet if you want to, but when they come for you, it won't be nobody left to say anything because you didn't say anything when you could have. So this is very important. Dr. Thompson.
Well, Dr. Warren, one of the things that we are experiencing is, I believe, apathy at this point. People have a woe is me mentality of what can we do, how can we do, what shall we do, and it's going to be just so important that as we go forth that we cannot be quiet. We cannot have an apathetic attitude about how we're going to go about things, but we're going to have to make sure that we're going about things very strategically, and we're also going to have to really, really make sure that in all that we do, that we get an understanding. Sometimes we want to go and say something, but we really don't know what we're talking about. So the importance of shows like this is to educate and to get people actively involved within their community, because if you don't say anything, and you don't vote, and you don't get actively involved, then we're going to get more and more of the same thing. And, for me, I see the apathetic mentality of a lot of people that say, well, it's going to happen anyway. We look at our city currently, and water bill, they're talking about water bills going up, sewage bills going up, the trash dump went up. Now they want to charge us to park everywhere within the city, and they're impacting us by all these homes, but not are requiring to have any parking spaces. So the people that used to have parking spaces don't have parking spaces because there's all these homes that have been approved without a parking plan.
And they deserve not to have parking spaces. They deserve exactly what they're getting because of their apathy. As a poet once said, and I quoted this week when I talked about the destruction of America and what we can do before it's too late, I always remember those words, I will not go quietly into the night. And we can't go quietly. A couple of weeks ago, I wrote an editorial that talked about in spite of and not because of. Mm-hmm. Our forefathers, they did things. They created the NAACP, the Urban League, the Bar Association, National Medical Association, all those organizations that are equipped with the word national represent the black counterpart to white organizations that were basically called the American, like the American Postal Union as opposed to the National Postal Union. All of these things, National Medical Association as opposed to American Medical Association. And so, we just don't have time to be apathetic at this point. And the problem is that the enemy, those who would take our rights and our freedoms, have studied us. They've created algorithms that predict how we're going to behave. And I know that it works because when I was elected official a number of decades ago, and people used to come to meetings to raise hell about issues, I could sit and look at the audience and pretty much pinpoint who was going to stay, who was going to leave, who was going to raise hell before they left. And so the human condition is predictable, but we cannot afford to be passive and inactive, okay? And so I say this week in an editorial that Rome was destroyed from within. We are witnessing, because of social media and technology, we are witnessing the destruction of America in real time. And much could be done about it. It could be stopped. There are more of us in support of democracy than there are those few who have united with this insane president to tear down everything. And what we saw happen yesterday was just another disgrace on a global scale. To bring every high-ranking general and admiral to Quantico and to have them from all over the world come into one place. First of all, that was a stupid move. And we don't know if there was you talk about a designated survivor. All you had to do was hit that place at Quantico, and it would have been done. And Quantico is a major base. I mean, that's where they train the FBI and a number of entities. And so it's not surprising, but to have someone as a Secretary of Defense, I'm not going to call it Secretary of War because we're not at war. The Secretary of Defense to lecture people like they're little kids, to say that in effect women can get out of the way. In effect, anybody who is ethnically identifiable is really a DEI person because black folks don't have the ability to achieve mentally. It's kind of like going back to the old monkey trial. It's like going back to the old Darwin thing about, well, they can't be that smart. Look at their forehead. Look at how they, you cannot laugh at this stuff because there are too many people who are believing what they see and what they hear and what they read. Mm-hmm. And so this is the danger of what is taking place. Yeah. And I'm concerned.
Yeah, and I think more than anything else, if we go down to the mere fact of the nation is not becoming a nation of us working together, but it's a nation of how much we can bully each other.
How much what?
How much we can bully each other. And America does not look like a nation now of trying to keep peace and trying to grow certain things. It looks like a nation that we're going to bully, we're going to push, we're going to do everything as long as it's in our favor.
Well, yeah, let's keep it very real as we look at what's going on. We had a church burned to the ground Sunday. We had people killed and injured. The person that did it was a veteran, a Marine veteran with all kind of skills. Even though the police arrived within 30 seconds of when it started, I mean, he had incendiary devices. He drove through the building. He knew what he was going to do. And even as they talked about the shooting, all you could see in the background was the entire church burning to the ground. Mm-hmm. A Seventh-day Adventist church. Okay.
No, I thought it was a Mormon.
I mean Mormon. Yeah.
No,
I'm saying Seventh-day Adventist. I mean Mormon church. Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So it's but what's happening is people are getting numb to this now. Mm-hmm. Not as much reaction, okay? People killed in church. It's not the first time. 27 people killed in church in Texas. 9 people killed in church in South Carolina. 2 kids killed in church school a month or so ago. I mean, it's like church is open season. A number of churches are hiring security. They have off-duty policemen there that are armed in terms of the buildings. You have people coming to church armed, as happened up in Orange County when the man came in and one of the members was able to stop him. So there's a spirit of fear, but what's so disturbing is the more people are killed, the less you have anything said about taking the assault weapons off the street that are killing people. And Charlie Kirk was not killed with an assault weapon, but we're just getting used to it, and that's a very dangerous place to be.
Well, Dr. Warren, I think it encourages a conversation about security and vigilance at our churches. Where the Bible say watch and pray. I think that we have been in a comfort state to the point that we don't realize that when you're in church, you're also going to now have to have a true security plan and people in position to watch who's coming in and who's coming out. Just recently, I was at a church and a man came in, and the way he looked and the way he moved around, it automatically piqued my attention. So I repositioned myself just in case. He was a person that was special, but he didn't come to do harm. But if he had came to do harm, it would have been quickly squelched. We have to, I think, in today's church, cannot just think that it is that respected fortress of nobody's going to go in and violate it anymore, because the mental health issue is a real thing.
Well, we can talk about mental health, but we know who the enemy of Christ is in the first place. Mm-hmm. And he's running rampant because this is his last day, his last hurrah, and he's trying to take as many people with him as he can. That's why a couple of months ago, I talked about the significance of us embracing 2 Chronicles 7:14, returning to prayer and doing what the word says. And my people who are called by my name would humble themselves and turn from their wicked ways and pray. Then they will hear from heaven. We no longer seem to be concerned about hearing from heaven, hearing from Jesus. We spend too much time hearing from Trump, which we shouldn't do. And I'm watching how people drive in a hurry, in and out, cutting in front of you, trying to make an issue of everything. And maybe because some of us are retired and we just look at it and say, what's the rush? What's the hurry? What is going on? And the rudeness that goes with it. I had a guy the other day try to jump in front of me downtown in a one-lane thing. He done come out of nowhere, and he gonna look like he got an attitude because I won't let him in. I rolled him. No, I'm not gonna let you in. You need to get to the back of the line like everybody else. And he started hollering something. I just rolled up to it. I didn't care about what he was hollering. First of all, as old and as big as my car is, it smashed anything smaller that it is. But we've just lost it. I expect a lot of people to lose it. I don't expect to see black people lose it to the extent that we're doing. We know better. We were raised better. We were raised by praying people. We know what the sacrifices have been made for us. We see what's happening even today, food prices and the things that are happening. And I want to give some kudos to the three entities that united here to be of help to the community. The Preby Foundation, Saul Price Charities, San Diego Foundation, all three of these entities made a $70 million commitment because of people who are food challenged and who have needs with low income. We have a lot of military people here who are hurting. I was glad to hear the food bank indicate that they expect more people. They're going to absorb the additional demands for food. But at the same time, we can give something, folks. We can give to help with this. And I don't mean that we just buy a $5 bag at Vons. I mean, we can send money to the food bank and Feeding San Diego. Our churches, we can help restock pantries so that we're able to help people. Okay, because the need is there, and we need to be able to do that. And I think that when we give more thought and attention to the needs of others, that God will bless us within our own sphere of need.
Mm-hmm. So with just going to the needs, with the current budget or the the closing down of government or the shutting down of government, but people are still required to work, without pay, and they'll get the back pay. But right now, how are people going to balance off, especially military people, the rent that they have to pay and everything else if they have no pay?
Well, that's a very interesting question because today is the first. Those checks are going out. People are concerned about what's going to happen on the 15th. I think we should understand the issue on the table because the Republicans are trying to make it look like it's a Democratic thing. The Democrats are standing hard because they're trying to save affordable care, Medicaid, Medicare, all those kind of cuts that are coming, and some of them are coming immediately. And people can't afford jumps. As they were mentioning, one lady who's a retired mental health worker, her health insurance now has gone from has experienced a $400 increase in 1 month, and things are going up by the hundreds of dollars in terms of cost of living. And they put a little thing up on the TV about the rents coming down in San Diego. What, 50 cents? They should have never been as high as they were in the first place. But I blame the residents because 46% of the people who live in San Diego are renters. They don't vote. All of these people who are marching and protesting, that means nothing if you don't register to vote. What we have happening in terms of redistricting to try to add more Republican seats, we got enough people to stop that. I've advocated for months that we should be looking at recalls for those Republicans. Those people who are not carrying out their duties took an oath of office, and they are guilty of malfeasance right now in terms of not living up to it. From the Supreme Court on, I no longer blame Trump as much as I blame the people around him who are allowed by the rest of us to do the things that they're doing against all of us. Okay? I remember one time Winston Churchill said that democracy is a poor form of government, but all the others are so much worse. Well, we don't need to be talking about going anywhere, leaving town or whatever, leaving the country. We need to stay here, anchor, and fight. Fight for our right to live, fight for our rights to have a constitution and what it stands for. And if we don't fight for it, who will? The courts are being bombarded with cases, good. But let's be like the people who were encouraged to do in Chicago. Let's turn out. Let's turn out in numbers. It makes no sense that we have a militarization of our cities, which is to be a distraction from things like the Epstein files and all the stuff that's really going on. Trump is a great diversionary artist, and he is not even important anymore. He is going to be the fool that he is. We need to be looking at how people are seeing us on a global scale. We have lost our standing in terms of global leadership. We have lost our standing in terms of who we are. We haven't stood up for NATO when we have an agreement on Article 5 that an offense against one is against all. And it's because of this man that we have there who is spending government time on a personal vendetta against everyone who ever said anything that he didn't like. And I'm not blaming him because we don't blame people for being mentally ill. We treat them. And his staff is as mentally ill as he is because under the 25th Amendment, I believe, they could sign a petition and he could be relieved. But why relieve him when Vance is crazier than he is? Okay, so, and it was just by design. I'm sorry to go on so long with it.
So one of the things that we're seeing is that he is now truly going on his get back tour to get everybody back who got in his way. He's gotten the former director of the FBI. How far do you think it's going to go, and will they literally successfully indict him, prosecute him?
Well, let me just say something might surprise some people. James Comey deserves every indictment and everything that he gets. And I have no sympathy for him because he violated protocol when days before the election, when Hillary Clinton was running, that he came out and made the statement that she was a person of interest. The FBI has never done that kind of stuff before. And it was enough to turn and sway people away from her as if something was going on. So you know what? You reap what you sow. He's getting it back. And I don't have any sympathy for him, and because he was not about us when he was there. And now all of a sudden he wants to get righteous. It doesn't work. The Lord says you're going to get back what you put out, and he's getting his return.
Now, what about the prosecutor and the DA in New York?
You know what? The crazy people working for him in New York, messing with Letitia James and going after Alan Braggs and all of these people are doing their jobs. And the public should remain supportive of them. He doesn't have any grounds to go after this lady. The whole fake thing he tried to do about a mortgage didn't hold up because he had more people that had problems. And, you know, let me just say for the record, because a lot of people don't know this, but the issue of elected officials having a second home has been an issue in America for decades. I mean, when I started hearing that, I remember 50 years ago, I was sitting in court room with Coleman Young, the mayor of Detroit, and there was this lady who held office, and she had a second home, and she was black, and they were trying to throw the book at her because she had more than one house. Who said that black people can't have more than one address in America? And the judge was about to give her the riot act until Coleman came in, and all he had to do was just sit in the back. And when he sat down, the whole atmosphere changed. Everything was thrown out. We have people here in San Diego who have done this kind of stuff. You know, when I first ran in 1995, I believe it was, for the State Assembly, the 79th Assembly District seat, it was right after a census and the boundaries had been redrawn. And Steve Peace was running in the 79th as if he lived in Bonita, but he lived in El Cajon. And so I lived in Bonita in the district. I filed a complaint with the Commission on Campaign Practices that he was running and that he didn't live in the area that he was running from, which was one of the prerequisites for running in an area. You know what they told me? They sent me a letter back and said, it doesn't matter because by the time of the election, he'll live in the district, so we're not bothering. Mm-hmm. This is double standard that we have. And we let people do this stuff to us and get away with it without speaking up, okay? And most of us don't want to speak up when it's somebody else, but we want everybody to speak up when it's us, and that won't fly.
So let's move back here to locally. Lots of things are going on throughout our city. Economically, how do we recover? Because it seems like every day there seems to be another charge on what they call the Sun State tax and everything like that. When does it stop? Because I think that, you know, things are going up and up and up, and then some things that they're charging for ultimately will have you stop going places and stop spending money. So is it proactive or reactive?
Well, first of all, let me say it's not new, okay? I remember years ago when National City raised their tax rate, and they thought it was going to bring them more income, but the residents of National City, they just went to Chula Vista and San Diego or other places to shop, so they didn't have to pay the tax increase. Again, people deserve exactly the kind of government they have. Y'all deserve the water bills. Y'all deserve the trash collection. Y'all deserve the parking increases. And you notice I'm saying y'all, okay? I mean, I always laugh, as I told you before, Dr. Thompson. For the past 25 years, being in business and living in East County and where I've lived, I've always paid for trash. I've always paid a high price for water. Matter of fact, I paid an even higher price for water when I had 6 horses because I had to have water for them. All right. So these are things that I had to pay higher prices for. I also had to pay for propane and septic tanks and all that kind of stuff. And so, but through this whole thing, people did not turn out in the sense of how they should have. And so, yeah, these things are going to kick in. This is the time you're looking at the election coming. This is the time to see who's going to do something to reverse the situation. The mayor can't be hurt because he can't run again. He's termed out. So technically, he doesn't care what's going on. Matter of fact, he just came back from some goodwill tour de France. I mean, he's all over the map, moving around, doing stuff. And so it's the citizens. And at what point do you get concerned enough to start coming out and paying attention? We got one member of our community that does that, Miss Francine Maxwell. She keeps up with stuff. And Reverend George Stevens started her on that path. If we want more, we could have blocked all this housing that's being thrown at us. When I cross the street from Market Creek Plaza and go down that street where you come out Market Creek, and they got 10,000 apartments and townhouses that they have built back there, which is absolutely insane. And they're doing it all over, cramming stuff into the 4th District. We know for a fact that the supervisor for the 4th District, when she was city council member, was engaged in approving one of those deals, dealing with footnote 7. So, there's a price for apathy, and the price for apathy is getting less than the kind of government you want because you didn't take a position.
So let me ask you this question. This is a real story about Des Moines, I think it's Iowa or somewhere, where the superintendent was detained by the ICE agents, and because of the detaining, he ultimately is now being forced to resign and has resigned his position as superintendent. What's your thoughts on that? You have a contributing person that has risen to the ranks, that has done all this great work, and now they're saying he's here illegally.
Well, first of all, he's black, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, are we surprised? I was a suspect when he was detained, and he went from paid leave to unpaid leave. And I haven't read all the details of why the people are firing him, because is there anything that says he wasn't a citizen?
Well, basically, he resigned, and then they accept his resignation. There's some paperwork out there, if I'm not mistaken, that said that they told him that his visa or something was expired or something.
So he's not a citizen?
Yes, they're saying that.
Okay, and so in Iowa, are we surprised at what happens in Iowa? I mean, Iowa is not Chicago or Atlanta, okay? And there are states just like Tennessee right now. They are embracing Trump sending in troops. The governor of Tennessee pulled up the National Guard to support the troops.
Yeah.
Because they feel that way. There are people who agree with what the Secretary of Defense did yesterday. He had enough buzzwords to get someone excited. Like, he's tired of seeing fat people walking around the Pentagon. I can understand that, because a lot of folks get comfortable once they get rank and they get privilege. They're not like Colin Powell. Colin Powell maintained his physique and maintained his sharpness. And another person who did that was Benjamin O. Davis Jr. I mean, he was like 6'5". His father was the first black general, and he came along. He was 4-star Air Force. And I remember meeting and talking with him here in San Diego. And the man stood just as straight as a ruler, and he was in his 80s then. So he was straight, but there's no excuse for sloppiness, because when I look at other countries, Some years ago, North Korea had a documentary on about their school system and how they train kids. And the propaganda they are given is that America is the devil and the great enemy. Everybody has to do military duty. Everybody. Well, I thought that was very interesting because when I was in high school, everybody had military duty as a requirement. We had drills, we had weapons, we had parades annually for all the battalions from all our schools. And we had actual uh, active duty Army officers in each high school responsible for our program. Made sense. We have become so weak and lackadaisical and so privileged. I think the draft should be reinstated. If we had a major crisis today that called for manpower, and we're relying upon a volunteer army, we're relying upon contract people to feed us, that is absolutely ridiculous. You got contract people feeding troops, and we're relying upon this? 50 years ago when I was in the military, we had people in the military who did the work, from peeling potatoes to cleaning the grease traps or whatever. And we've just become such a nation of weakness.
Well, let me ask you this question. If they reinstated the draft, would not you think that it would highly affect people of color versus the other people that are not? Because it seems like when the draft came, it came for us first.
Well, the draft came for us because of the people that they had on the draft boards that didn't look like us. That was first part of it. They had 1F status. That was people like Kennedy and Bush who didn't serve and got away, and they got waivers and they got out of it. Okay, if you were rich and had money, you got away. I'm not as worried about that because if we had the draft again, we're going to still get a wide net of people. One of the unfair elements in the draft, and I remember this so very well, Puerto Rico is a U.S. territory. And I remember serving with guys from Puerto Rico that were drafted, who hardly spoke English, and did not have all of our privileges of citizenship, but they had all the harassment. I remember one little guy in particular when we went through the gas chamber, and he didn't speak English, and he didn't know what he was supposed to do in there, and the gas was hit, and nobody was trying to help him and everything. We brought people from the Philippines here in the military. About 10 years ago, there was a enlisted person from the Philippines who had his wife here. He had an accidental death. It wasn't his fault. And instead of helping to move her towards citizenship, the first move was to deport the lady. And so we are, we're in trouble in terms of the way we think. And I think a day of reckoning is coming for America, and it's going to be unfortunate. But I believe that God is going to help provide those of us who stay the course with him, because the worst has not come yet. The worst is yet to come.
And one of the things that we have to be very mindful, especially being a military city and having so many bases, don't we have the most bases at this point, or very close to the top?
No, we don't, because we got bases here. We also have a naval bases up in Seattle, and we have naval bases in Virginia, Norfolk, Virginia. But this is an important base because of the West Coast and the Pacific Rim. And our carriers sail out of here. The Ronald Reagan and all of those ships sail from this port. So that's what's so important.
Well, and the reason why I was saying that is because when people come and they do attacks, they look at what's going to have the biggest damage. And I wonder if our city or even the West Coast is prepared for something like that happening, and what do we do?
Oh, the West Coast was prepared. I mean, in World War II, we were prepared. The port now has windows, but in World War II, the port didn't have any windows. They just put windows to that building in the past 20 years, okay? And the city had blackouts, if you will, and it is rumored that the Silver Strand is wired so that in a real critical situation, instead of having to sail out around the point, that they would just blow a hole through that and ships go straight out to sea. But you know, with nuclear weapons and bombs and stuff, a lot of that is academic because you only got about 30 minutes before things happen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so, do you feel like we are closer to World War III than ever before?
I believe that if World War III doesn't come soon, we will do the job for World War III.
Okay.
Our hatred and our racism is greater than our love for democracy. And nobody wants to admit that. You know, as tragic as all these shootings are, I am so relieved that the people doing the shootings are not black. Because if they were black, they would start shooting us on sight. And because we've seen in the past, whenever anything happened, just like they did Oklahoma when they burned the city down. And we've had race riots all through history in Chicago and different places, and they've tried to hide them. And let us not forget what they did with Rosewood in Florida in terms of how many people they killed, just because some guy lied about suggesting that someone was messing with his wife when they knew that that wasn't true.
Well, let me ask you this question because I'm not getting the connection piece. With the death of Charlie Kirk, they start making threats against HBCUs. What did HBCUs have to do with anything that happened in Utah?
It didn't have anything to do with it, but HCBUs represented black collegiate institutions. Charlie Kirk was killed at a white institution. They're probably mad that it happened that way and it didn't happen in a black institution. Remember, racism is always looking for excuses. Let us not forget how many times in the past 15, 20 years we've had people hanging nooses at UCSD and Compton and different places where, they think it's funny. I remember 38 years ago when I purchased the Voice and Viewpoint, the first Halloween that we experienced, we had a situation in Oceanside where white kids were coming out for Halloween dressed as Klan members. Mm-hmm. And everybody thought that was okay. And it wasn't okay. Any more than it is when white folks go blackface thinking that that's a joke and that it's funny. Mm-hmm. Okay? These things are not funny. You have to dehumanize folks so that they no longer see them as equal human beings before you then can attack them. And that's what the psychology is. And let us remember that one thing that stopped a lot of this racist activity in the South, and Malcolm spoke about it, it came after him, but when the deacons were organized, and they were black men, many of whom had been longshoremen, and they had access to weapons. And when they went hunting for the Klan that night, I'm telling you, Klan activity came to a standstill. Mm-hmm. And I remember with the brother whose home business was burned down in North Carolina, and we drove south with rifles and threw a barricade around his house all night so that when white folks came back, they saw black folks out there patrolling with weapons. And they just kept on going. Okay, the people will always try to pick weak folks. They will come in large numbers to attack those who seem harmless or unable to defend themselves. That's just the law of the jungle. Go for the weak ones, okay? And we have to stand up and show we're not weak. We are not pro-violent, but we're not going to be run over, okay? But we're the last ones paying attention to preparing for what's coming.
Yeah, and I think that that's the thing is that I've been saying that we're starting to be what they call that perfect storm, when so much is happening, and you're taking away from Peter to pay Paul, And now perfect storms are happening, and things that we used to depend upon are no longer there. And we as a community, we used to could say we're going to go to the church and people will respect the church. But now we don't even see that type of reverence anymore, even for the body of Christ.
Well, let me back up something you said. Things that we depend upon are no longer there. What are you thinking of exactly?
Well, like some people had jobs, they worked for certain companies, and it was like, I'll start here, I'll retire here, my pension's going to be good. Some people work for the city. You get in the city, you good with the city, but we're seeing that even with that, jobs are going away, things are shutting down, and what used to be a mainstay is no longer a mainstay.
Yeah, but so many of them got over with that program. That early enrollment. We got a lot of folks walking around there that we know who did their time, and they got in the drop program, and they got big bucks when they came out, and some are in it right now that are waiting to come out. So some people gonna be okay. The people who set that program up, by the way, though, a lot of them, if they didn't go to jail, they came close to going to jail, and some of them were from the Housing Commission, because this was the only place where retirees got a 13th check. Most people just get a check a month. They got a bonus check for Christmas, and people were saying, how can that be? And remember, one of our problems were we were trying to repay money for years in terms of what happened with the whole pension fund and how things went. And so it just goes to show that you cannot put your faith in man. You need to put your faith in God, and you need to work with friends and neighbors to be proactive so that you protect what you have. They're not gonna give it to us just because we there. They don't care how many years you worked here. They certainly not gonna give you the watch. They're gonna get rid of you if they can.
Yes, and so one of the things about it is that nothing that was like, oh, this is standard, this is it. Everything right now is in a consistent change. Dr. Warren, I disagree with you about the trash. The water, we understood the water. We've always paid water. We've always paid sewage and
Right.
everything else that nature. But the trash used to be a thing that you could just depend on. They was going to pick it up. And then, when they started saying, okay, you got to get the right trash cans. We did that. We paid for the trash cans. They brought them out. We did that. They were raggedy trash cans. They broke easy, and you had to buy another one. So they had a program that, they could always get some more money out of you on the trash can. Now they said, okay, everybody got to pay for trash, and now we want you to choose your trash cans. But if you don't pick the right trash can or whatever, we're going to charge you anyway, and you're just going to have the biggest trash can we got.
Well, we're going to have an issue anyhow because they've been calling me about the trash can thing, and we do not have any city trash pickup. Mm-hmm. We have a trash contract with EDCO, mm-hmm. and we've had it with them for years. And so, I don't really care about what they're trying to get done because, again, we had a chance. We let them spend all those millions of dollars studying what should be charged for trash, which was absolutely ridiculous because the money that was spent for the study could have gone toward making up what you're trying to collect with the trash rates that you're coming up with and the increase, okay? Mm-hmm. So again, I keep saying that for the most part, people deserve the kind of government that they have, and they deserve what they get when they don't do anything but sit back and complain and say, well, I'm not going to vote. It's not going to make a difference anyhow. It's not true. 1960, the Supreme Court in Reynolds v. Sims made it very clear that we cannot draw districts based on electoral voting capacity, but we have to base it upon people in terms of who actually live in the areas, and they all have to be counted. And so that's what makes this redistricting so important, which we're going to give some special time to with guests next week in terms of really going into it. So we got big challenges, but it's nothing that hasn't happened before, and it's not as bad as it could be, but it'll get worse if we don't do something.
Yes, Dr. Warren, I had the privilege to be at a training on last night, and Voice and Viewpoint, I saw covering it, but a training with Carla Crudup. And I like her name because I'm like, I got it down. I said, crewed up, because Carla Crudup, she literally crews up, and Summer Stephan came out. Many people
Yeah, I
spoke.
saw that summer was there. We
Yeah.
covered it. Yeah.
Yeah, and what I really loved about this training was not only did they talk about the issues and how it's impacting the community, but they called it Amazing Grace, and because they're saying how the church has to have that heart, and they're the place where people can be healed and delivered, and so many other ways. But there was a training need, and after we went through the training, not only did questions were answered, you could ask questions, but also they gave you the Narcan, and basically said that they helped us understand that if you use Narcan and somebody's not overdosing, it doesn't hurt them. But they start explaining how the opioid, especially fentanyl and carfentanil, actually impacts the brain.
Right.
And the one thing that I did not know, you know how they say, give them the Narcan and they're going to be good. But they were saying that lasts 30 to 90 minutes, and the opiates could still be in the system for over 12 hours. So once that Narcan wears off, they can go back in and crash
Right.
again. So they're saying that it's so important that you call 911 and make sure that they get medical help. But what I did love is that the importance of saying, let's go to the churches and let's start involving more people in understanding, because we're starting to see people come to church and overdosing in the bathrooms, being high, coming into service and not knowing. So we have to just be so mindful in our community. And it was a great turnout, very great turnout.
I saw that it was, and I'm glad we were able to cover it. I think our churches are going to have to be re-energized. We have some very aggressive and sharp young pastors in our community now. I can think of 6 or 7 of them. They're really doing a great work. People are coming back to church. People are getting involved, and they're getting involved in community. They're changed from that old theory of just trying to hoop and holler and take up an offering to seeing what can they do to make it meaningfully benefit people. And so I think there's great hope there.
Yeah, and having the church go back to being open almost 7 days a week, because there's always activities and things that are taking place involving young people, involving seniors, and also, for lack of better words, it is literally a space that everything that you need, if you need tutoring services, stuff like that, a lot of churches are offering a well-rounded where people want to come because they're getting their needs met as well as their spiritual needs met.
Well, one of the reasons that a lot of churches are not open as they used to be is age and attrition. The congregations is aged out. People have died off who used to volunteer to do these things. And so that makes a big difference. So we got to bring in a whole new, fresh crop. We were moving toward a lot of young pastors like Pastor Glenn McKinney, who was really connecting with folks, and we have several of them out there like him that are doing that. And as I can think of them, we need to encourage them.
Amen. And also realize that, sometimes when you're young, people think that you can do way more and they want to put way more on your plate. But we also have to take and be mindful that rest is not a sin. I think that's a message, Dr.
Be mindful
Wood,
of what?
that rest is not a sin. You know what I'm
No.
saying? Because you are one of those people that says, look, rest is not a sin. And so we have to also take time to replenish our mind, body, and spirit. I want to go and end off the segment this week. We're talking about and I know you have one more, but I want to talk about at some point today about the transition and the growth of the Voice and Viewpoint and the new things that are coming forth that are attracting even a younger population of readers and connecting more people. And one of the things that I highlight highly is your community calendar.
Well, you know what? I'm excited about what we're doing, and I'm trying to replicate it nationally. I just came back from Washington doing the Congressional Black Caucus Week. where I had a very powerful meeting of my board of directors with the National Newspaper Publishers Association. And we had a leadership award reception for 3,000 to 5,000 people on Thursday night of last week, where we had an opportunity to push the significance and importance of our papers as trusted messengers. And we got generations that have never read a newspaper. They've grown up on their cell phone and social media, and of course some of them can't read anyhow. So we're really challenged, and so I'm excited. Voice and Viewpoint is kind of leading by example, both nationally and statewide. We're very involved in terms of having brought together under the Black Publishers Media Association, which I created some 4 or 5 years ago, that all of our papers meet every month on a regular basis, and we are designing programs like The Voice has done to reach out to people, reaching the younger folks, because we got young people like them that are involved in what we're doing. And we have outstanding interns and fellowships that have worked, and people have come through there. And one of the things I've started recently is a salute to African nations. And I have every African country on the continent in terms of their history, their independence, and how they were structured. And every month, I think this month we got about 3, we will have in our paper a history of those countries and their breaks from colonialism and the things that bringing back something that was done some 60 years ago when the late Congressman Powell used to salute these countries in the extension of remarks in the congressional record. So yes, I'm excited that I cannot take credit for all the great things happening. I have a phenomenal managing editor and young staff, and they take care of business. And the good thing about it is they keep me in the loop in terms of what they're doing. They value my comments when I meet, because I meet with them weekly, just as I meet with my board nationally, my executive committee for all the 200-some papers in the country. As chair, I meet with them on a regular basis too, in terms of things that we're trying to get done. So I believe we're going to get our churches involved again. We're working to do that, and I'm showing other cities how to do it. And I believe it's going to make a difference.
Yes, and I know that as we get closer and closer to different elections and different topics, they're going to be. I'm looking forward to seeing Biscuits, Grits, and Politics coming back in some form or shape. I know that there's still a need for us as our better word would be influencers, because we do a lot to make sure that people have the information and become the trusted messengers. I think that even when there's times where we feel like we're talking to ourselves, we still have to continue on, because of the fact is that a lot of people are taking notes. But if we, you know how they say, if we could just get one, and if that one, because what the Bible says, one could put 1,000 to flight,
Right.
but 2 could put 10,000 to flight.
10,000.
So we don't need 50,000. We could get about 10 folks
Right.
and do a whole bunch of damage.
Yes.
And I think that that's now. I always tell people you can't be motivated by the crowd, because the crowd sometimes comes just to look and to see, but they do not want to do any of the work.
That's right.
I would rather have a small crowd and all full of workers than a big crowd and only a few workers.
Yeah, doing nothing.
Exactly.
No, you're right with all of this, and I'm excited that we have great opportunities. I want to do Biscuit, Grits, and Politics again. We're preparing for our 66th gala, 13th annual gala event that will be February 13th. We're working on that right now. But things like Biscuit, Grits, as you know, and politics, people have to get involved and help support to make these things work. Mm-hmm. And you and I can no longer afford to underwrite all of these things that we have tried to bring to our community. when people just took our efforts for granted and didn't want to help pay for it. Okay, if they're not paying for it, we can't do it. It's just like people keep coming to me saying, "All we need to do Gold Coast again," and I look at them and I'm saying, "Yeah, but did you even buy a ticket when we did it for 10 years?"
Yeah, 'cause
Okay.
there was a lot of free tickets that were given away. I think now, this being honest, because when we say our community, well, people of color live all over the state,
That's
all
right.
over the
Everywhere.
city. So now we have to create opportunities for people to come, and it doesn't, to me, if you're going to come and you're going to be on the side of right, just like this weekend, pastors are getting together. There was a call for them to get together just to have breakfast over some political issues that are getting ready to impact not only our state, but the nation. And again, we're going to see how many people will literally come out, in this case, a free breakfast to get information. And I believe that a lot of people will come because those that are conscious are really saying that we have to do something. And no matter what anybody say about the church, they need the church to really get the word out. And I'll tell you that because I don't care what nobody say. When troubles hit, Pastor, and you know this for a fact, you're a publisher, but you're also a pastor. And your folks will call you. They ain't been to church in 10 years, but let something happen. Pastor, I need to talk to you right now. So when trouble comes, folks going to come back, because they know that there's an answer.
I'm not even going to comment on that.
Praise the
because
Lord. Praise the
I
Lord.
have the attitude, if you haven't done your part, sometimes you're getting exactly what you deserve in terms of the return on the lack of investment. If you didn't plant a crop, you don't have a harvest. Okay? And so you can walk by the rows and look at them all day long, but if you didn't put seed in the ground, ain't nothing coming up.
And that is very, very true.
Okay, so we'll do that. I just want to say I continue to appreciate this opportunity that we have. I want to thank those of you who listen, who call in, who pay attention to what we're doing. We appreciate your efforts. We appreciate your comments, the notes that you give us. Those things encourage us because it takes a lot of time and effort in terms of what we do. And we don't take a recess from it. We do this 365. Okay, and we're doing it not just locally, but globally now. I mean, GOD Radio is global. Voice and Viewpoint is global. We have 184 countries that follow us in terms of what we're doing. And people in those countries, I'm sure many of them have been here at some point in America's finest city. And so, but, I always remember what the scripture says, that the prophet is without honor in his own country. And so many times we just can't seem to get the people here to appreciate it. But people who get in touch with us from other places, they think we just got it going on in San Diego. It's like so much happening, but it's just always a few people that are carrying the load for the larger numbers. So thank all of you so much. We appreciate you. We love you, and we thank you for your efforts.
And with that being said, this is from the Desk of the Editor with Dr. John Warren. We look forward to having you come back. We have some special guests coming up very, very soon. And we want you to know that in the slogan of the San Diego Voice and Viewpoint, it is, Dr. Warren?
Say what?
The slogan.
A people without a voice cannot be heard.
Yes.
Okay.
And so
we are here to give you a chance to be heard. And we value what you have to say.
thank you all for tuning in. Y'all have a blessed night.